Hi, Jack. Good morning.
Hey, good afternoon from England.
Oh, that's right. Good afternoon. Oh my gosh. Well, it's Friday, and I am just really happy to be starting off my Friday with you, one of my
Oh, thank
favorite
you.
people. Yes, if you are not familiar, which I'm sure most of you are joining right this second on time, Jack Fox is literally one of my favorite statement deception analysts. He's so incredible. The human lie detector. I just, I got to pull up the chat. I think yay, Sheila. Hi, Sheila.
Hi, Sheila.
Hi, Taryn. Thanks for
Taryn, hello.
joining. I know, love them. I saw the movie Long Legs last night. I don't know if you've heard of that one with Nick Cage. Yeah.
You are the second person to mention it to me today. I don't
Mhm.
know anything about it, but
Wait.
when I see these random people mentioning something, I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Oh, that is super well, only because my husband, he wanted to go see it because it was supposedly supposed to be, or it's supposed to be the like scariest movie ever. Not really.
Okay.
Yeah, not super scary. Yeah, I don't know. See it. It's good. Nick Cage is amazing, but not yeah.
I will check it out. I'm a big believer in coincidences. When these things fire off all around you from different places, there's a sign being sent there.
Yeah, I think also it's one of those things when I tell you, I mean, don't you know what I mean? Don't expect much and you're like, "Okay, maybe you'll like it more." Oh wait, Sheila said her boys are going to see it tonight. Yeah, I mean, it's gory. It's got all the ingredients. It's just not, the most amazing film I've ever seen,
This is
but
how not plugged in I am to pop culture. Never
well,
heard of it
Nick
until this
Cage.
morning.
No, Nick Cage, one thing I'll say is they do this makeup on him that's really scary. And he is worth seeing. He is the best part of that movie for sure.
Right.
But that's not why we're here this morning, is it, Jack?
No.
No. So, oh, hi, Sue. Yay. Hi, Disney.
Hey.
So we are here because we're going to start with Alec Baldwin. Many of us are following this trial. Many of us have a lot of opinions on it, but you did something really interesting. Oh, and we're going to get to the Karen Reed jury after that, but you did something really interesting. You watched you analyzed the police report first.
That's the police interview that he did.
Yes.
So on the day of the shooting, he was taken from the set. Although there's some body cam footage where he gets VIP'd away from the set. Like he's literally, as far as the police know, fired a gun that has seriously injured someone at that point, and he gets
Yeah.
the chance to go back to base camp, change out of his costume, which could have evidence on it, get
Yeah.
into his street clothes, and drive himself to the police station for an interview. And he's in the police interview for, I think, just round about an hour.
Yeah.
And this is, if you think about this in terms of, I guess, whether it's a guilty person or whether it's an innocent person, this is the first chance to tell the story without rehearsal, without a lot of thinking about it. So from this, we get a real impression of how he tells this story, what is important to him at the point of telling this story. And so it's fascinating from that point of view.
That's so interesting. You're so right. This is the first time he's having the chance to say what happened and prove his innocence here, or prove that he is just baffled, right? He did not expect this either. Please, continue. This is so fascinating.
I think I watched the whole thing through, and some really interesting observations from my point of view around that were he spoke a lot in general terms. So he spoke about what the set was like, how we've been here for 2 weeks and we've never had an incident. This is the procedure that we follow all the time. Much less, unless pushed, did he talk about the specific incident that day, which suggested to me that what he wanted to show at that point was that this is an entirely unexpected occurrence, and that we have been abiding by all the safety precautions going. And bear in mind, I know it's now not allowed in the trial, but at the time, he was the producer of the film, or is the producer of the film, or one of the producers. So he may well have felt he had an overall responsibility to the film, to the production itself, as much as there was a responsibility to himself at that point. But he was much less talking about any specific caution that was taken around the incident, so the rehearsal of the scene that caused the fatal shooting. Much more talking just in general terms about how they do things all the time. Not necessarily that's me saying he's guilty or this was a really shoddy,
Right.
but it was very interesting that his priority was getting that across.
Well, of course, right? Because that's his set he's responsible for, number one. Number two, Jack, he didn't know she had passed away yet. Am I right?
That's correct. At the very end of the police interview, I've got a video of this on my channel if you want to watch it. The police
Yes.
actually inform him that she has passed away while they've been talking. And the shock on his face
I know.
is just something else to watch. I mean, you really are looking in quite a private moment there, but it's very interesting his reaction there to it.
You're right. And it's pretty haunting too, because like I said, I feel exactly the same way you do. When he comes out, he's saying, generally, we, this, that. He's thinking about it from a producer standpoint, like, wow, this is going to cost me a lot of money. They're probably going to sue me. He is not even thinking could be jailed for manslaughter because somebody has died. And that's my thinking of how he was handling this at the beginning. And then all of a sudden, I think that's when it clicks for him. My tune's got to change here.
Yes, exactly that, because as I understand it, his defense in the trial is going to be that number one, and I think quite rightly, it weren't me that put a live round in the gun. Like, I am not responsible for bringing live rounds on the set, and I am certainly not responsible for a live round in the gun. I think his other thing that he is going to say is that he didn't pull the trigger, that the gun misfired, went off accidentally, or not even accidentally, like it wasn't, it just went off. And he doesn't tell that story in the police interview at all. He does say, what happened, I did not intend to happen. He does talk at one point about cocking the gun, but he does use the phrase, when I shot the gun as well. So it's not quite when I squeezed the trigger or when I fired the gun, but he does use the phrase, when I shot the gun. And when I shot the gun this time, there was no recoil. I'm paraphrasing slightly what he said in that police interview, but he does talk about shooting the gun. He does say, what happened wasn't intended. He also does say that he was assuming it was empty. Now, if you're not going to fire the gun, why would you be assuming it's empty, if that makes sense? Like, it should have been empty, may well have been how you would say that, but I'm assuming the gun was empty or the gun wasn't armed is slightly different. That to me suggests that he would have felt, because if he was assuming it was empty, safety in pulling the trigger, that he thought it was empty and could pull the trigger quite safely. With that, I'm assuming the gun is empty, and there was a lot of assumptions that he mentioned in that. Now, I don't know the law, and I don't know how the jury will look at it. So, if he's got something that he quite reasonably can assume is not a dangerous weapon, then is it negligent to press the trigger? I don't know the law. I don't know anything like that. But I think that I'm not entirely convinced that he didn't deliberately pull the trigger of that, although I'm convinced that he did not expect anything that ensued from that.
Well, what I gather from that, him saying I didn't expect it to, I mean, that to me is just that you have not been trained properly on a set. And as people that are following the trial, they know that it's not admissible, his producer status. That's not a variable in this trial. And good Lord, lucky for him, because all of this comes down to administrative stuff, producer stuff, I'd say, because that's what I take it. Ashley said they told him it was a cold gun too. I mean, yeah. And again, if you're following this trial, you would have heard the 911 call, which I thought was really a great call on the defense, because they don't mention Alec's name at all. They mention Dave Halls, and they say, Dave gave him the gun. They said it's really interesting. So I do feel like Alec Baldwin was in such shock that he was really grasping during this interview, Jack. And I feel like all of us maybe would sort of just word vomit a little bit, just because we are innocent. We don't know what happened. Right? I mean, is that a thing?
Yeah, it's shock. Have you ever had a shocking incident in your life where you realize that 5 minutes afterwards, you're just garbling out a whole lot of words?
All the time. Sorry. Not shocking, but I'm always like, well.
I remember once my brother. This is going to sound like I had an abusive childhood. I didn't. My brother threw a stone and it hit me in the face. So I had like the shock
Oh,
of that, the blood pouring down. And my mum tended to me and, cleaned it all
yeah,
up and so on. And I was sitting at the kitchen table talking to her. And I realized after a couple of minutes, I was talking nonsense. And I went, Mom, am I making sense? And she went, it's the
oh,
shock.
oh,
I think could be happening there with Alec Baldwin. On Ashley's
yeah,
point, look, he doesn't say once in that police interview he was told it was a cold gun. He talks in the generals about how
yeah,
we use a cold gun when we're rehearsing, and we say cold gun when a
yeah,
cold gun's going on set, or when it's handed to you, you're told cold gun. But in the police interview, he doesn't specifically say, I was told this was a cold gun.
right,
Therefore, I had no worries about what was going to happen if I moved this gun around or, had this gun in my hand. He talks in general about cold guns, but he doesn't in the police interview specifically say that. Now, that's not me saying he wasn't told it was a cold gun. I just
yeah,
find that quite interesting that he didn't talk around that incident. Another thing that may be to do with that is it's a traumatic incident and that he really doesn't want to recall what has just happened, that he has just
yeah.
seen.
I agree. I mean, that's a great point as well. Think of what happened. You literally did not expect this to happen. You've got a gun in your hand on a movie set and you watch it go through two people. I'm sure there was blood everywhere, not to be gross or gory, but I it would be traumatizing and shocking. Also, this is interesting. Sheila said this. He also never uses her name in the interview. But
Uh,
again, he didn't know she was dead, right? I mean, or had passed.
Sheila, I think you hit on a great thing there. He uses very few names in the interview. I think that to me, this was a sense of remoteness, the star remote from the crew.
Yeah.
He's asked it, well, he doesn't use Hannah Gutierrez's name at first. He said she was the armorer and she blah, blah, blah. And the police have to say to him, can we have a name? And he says,
Hmm.
Hannah. And she had two assistants. I don't know their names. And he's like that all the way through. He doesn't mention Helena's name. Hardly mentions Helena's name at all. It's always her. When he does that, I think that is a little bit more about his remoteness and aloofness as a star, that he doesn't quite need to know the names of everyone on the crew. He's much
Oh,
better with male names, incidentally. That was quite, he knows he shot Joel, his friend. No, I think he was closer to Joel than he was
director.
to Helena, but
Yes.
he did know Joel's name. But Helena, no, he wasn't very familiar with her name at all. And I think I can kind of get this, but he loved telling the detectives about how movies are made, in this interview, which could be a little bit of shock, but also, he's been in the movie industry all his life, and
Mhm.
99 times out of 100, when he rocks up in a room with non-movie industry people, they are going to be loving hearing Alec Baldwin's stories about how movies are made and how the illusions are created and so on. So that might not be him being, hey, I'm a big star and here's how the movies are made. It might just be quite a lot of training or learning in his life, that when he walks into a room and there's someone there not involved in the movie business, we're all going to be, oh, please tell us how movies are made, Alec, because it's really, really
Yeah.
fascinating. We all go and see them.
Yeah, right. And so Taryn, I'm gonna pin this comment for a minute. So this is interesting, Taryn, because you're coming from it from a it's like the split side. He's at fault, he's not. And Taryn, I think you believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, you believe he's at fault. The cold gun isn't an excuse, but you're law enforcement. If someone hands me a gun and says it's not loaded, I'm going to double check. I'm not going to take their word. Yeah, I mean, and his whole defense is, yeah, or part of it, right, is he's just an actor. And SAG put out that statement saying he's just an actor. That's not his job. I really don't know what I would do. I really don't.
I,
If I was
I
checked in,
mean,
I would,
it comes
right
down to what
though?
what does the law say? In the UK, the
Mhm.
very top people at companies are responsible legally for the health and safety. So they have to ensure. No, they're not. So if you owned the film studio in the UK, you wouldn't have to be on set checking that these guns were cold when they went, but you'd have to make
Yeah.
sure that there were proper processes in place
Mhm.
to ensure that no matter what those are. And also, you have to have your own rules and processes in place. It's not enough to go, we acted within the law or we acted out with the law.
Yeah.
The law is there. You have to have processes that mean you adhere to the law and provide a safe working environment for everyone. So, you know, it depends what status Alec Baldwin has in that set. Is he one of the top people? Well, that's not going to come into the court case. Or
No.
is he a paid person who's just doing what he's told and playing out his
Yeah.
job?
Well, yeah. And I think we saw yesterday a little bit with the defense. And I had said this the other day. And Taryn, you, if you're, you would know this, but someone like me, I don't really know the difference between blanks and live rounds, I guess. And Jack, I don't know about you either, but I would have no clue if I opened it and said, "Oh, that's a blank. Oh, that's a live round." No idea. So I thought that was also interesting. And just another point, they had the expert, the gun expert yesterday that basically said that gun is not going to fire unless somebody pulls the trigger. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I don't believe that he didn't pull the trigger from his words. Now, I don't know. I wasn't there what happened, but the way he spoke about it in
Right.
that police interview, I think he did pull the trigger. He'd certainly expressed no
Yeah.
mystery around how the gun went off there. He did sometimes blame the gun, if you know what I mean, which is the gun went off, not I
Yep.
fired the gun or a person fired the gun. He did blame the inanimate object at times, but within there, he didn't say, I cocked it expecting the hammer to stay back, but it went off. He doesn't say anything like that in that police interview. And again,
Yeah.
that's not me saying he's guilty or he's innocent. I don't know enough about how the law is going to fall on this, but
Yeah.
if he's going to use, I didn't fire this, I didn't pull the trigger as an excuse, I don't get that.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, and I completely agree with you. And I want to reiterate, it really does sound like this initial interview, he is coming from it from a completely distanced perspective because he doesn't want to even indicate that he feels like he's at fault at all. He didn't know anybody had passed away. And he's most likely thinking that he's going to get in big trouble from an executive or financial standpoint. They should have taken the plea that the other guy took. That was Dave Hall's. If it was me, I feel so guilty. I would apologize. So it's interesting. I feel like your perspective here is what I don't know how to, like, an honest person and a genuine person would do. However, if you had a lawyer like Bash or Alex Spiro, they would say, "No way, you can't say that." Or any defense attorney would be like, "I don't think you can do that because that will automatically get you in jail." And I just feel like your lawyer would, but I totally get it. And I agree with you there, but lawyers wouldn't.
Yeah. I've had lots of legal advice in my life. The one that always sticks with me
Yeah.
is never say sorry, which was
Really? Wait, really?
yeah. So
Go on.
again, I am based in the UK, so potentially our laws are different from yours and how this comes across. But a very senior lawyer was giving me media libel law training. And he said, if you say something and someone phones up or contacts you to say this is libel or slander, do not say sorry to them at that point. Do not say sorry, because that is an admission of guilt. I'm sorry for doing something. He said, and by the way, I'm here to tell you about media law, but this is also the exact same. If you crash your car into someone, don't say I'm sorry, because it implies the same thing. So I've always bore that in mind in a legal sense. Yeah, there may come a point. And again, without giving away too much about what I've done with my life, I have issued apologies written by a lawyer where it has been the right thing to do, as in, here are some damages and here's an apology. But that's when the lawyer tells you that an apology would be a good thing to do, and might bring the damages down slightly. So that's never say sorry is just the legal advice that sticks in my head.
Wait, and I feel like, sorry, any female here that's watching, I mean, I am the worst. I apologize for everything. I always think everything's my fault. And this is where I did have a little bit of flexibility for Karen Reed, because I always say like, oh, it probably was my fault. It's probably because of me. It's probably because I did it. I always think like that. It's horrible. And just, this is just really funny. Everybody, yes, you guys say sorry to be polite. Wait, Taryn, this is super interesting. Never blow for a DUI. See, I was giving Justin Timberlake a lot of crap because, and this is a sidetrack here, but because he didn't blow, I was like, isn't that a sign of guilt because you know that you're going to fail? I'm so interested in that. Wow. And then also, yes.
So, oh, you go.
I was
only going to
yes,
say with
Jack.
with that is that what do we want to do in this world, right? In this perfect world, we would people who who did criminal things would admit to them and say sorry. But as we've seen, as we've been talking through various trials, there's a game at play, which is it's not your job to confess to something; it's the state's job to prove that you did it. So why make things easier for them? That's not official legal advice, and that's not me saying just drive drunk, just don't blow. But that's the game at play.
Yeah, and I'm going to come back to this really quick, Melinda. Just one more thing on this. It doesn't matter. Don't blow unless you're 100% sober. Like, should I say sorry for dragging Justin Timberlake for not blowing? I mean, no, but I'm just saying I feel bad. I really didn't know that was a thing. I guess I'm not privy on some of these, I don't know, not laws or what would they be called? Standards, whatever. But let's go back to Melinda. Back to Baldwin really quick. If you have all the money in the world to fight a manslaughter charge, why would you be willing to go to prison? I believe no, I don't think so, Melinda. I don't think the question here is if it was intentional or accidental. I think everybody agrees that it was accidental and it was not intentional, which is why if anyone heard opening statements, Carrie Morrissey made a point to say Alec Baldwin went on set and picked the biggest gun. And I'm like, so does that mean that he picked the biggest gun to kill his crew member? And I've mentioned this before, but I'm actually friendly with some of the actors in that film from another movie that I played on another live. And I texted him about this. And he said that, Lauren, those are artistic choices by actors. It's based on our character and it's based on, it's all artistic. The size of the gun or what type of gun, it has no bearing on this at all. It's completely artistic. Ashley, just touching on Carrie really quick, because Jack has some thoughts about Carrie. Melinda, she was a chore to listen to. Jack, please share some of your initial general thoughts on Carrie, if you don't mind.
Just watch how she talks. We only hear her talk for, especially when she's objecting, which I think is the point that people really get annoyed by her. Potentially, when she starts doing cross, then something may come in there as well. She talks in commands rather than suggestions. Sometimes that's a tonal thing, but sometimes it's the words she uses. But I've seen her do the "let's approach." As she's telling the judge, we're approaching, and actually if you watch her, she says let's approach while she's approaching. Like, it's hilarious. It's like she's let's approach, and normally you see people in the court being more respectful, and it's permission to approach, or can I approach, Your Honor? And then they approach. She talks in commands, and she offers opinions as facts. If you know what I mean. Sometimes that's even tonally. So I can understand what it is she's doing with her words and her tone that is riling people. I wonder if there is a little bit of the fact that she's female that's doing it, because it's quite a male way to behave. And I don't mean that's, hey, if you pick on her, you're sexist and there's some misogyny going on there. I think when people don't act in a way that we expect them to act, sometimes that can put us on edge. That can make us go, what is it I don't like about this person? And I think that might be a little bit about what is going on there. So look, it's entirely up to you whether you think she's a great person or whether she really grates on you, whether she's an effective prosecutor. But I think that is what is going on there. Plus, there's some more behavioral things with her. She carries herself with a bit of swagger. MJ, she does not give me Lally vibes. Lally, we spoke about this before. Lally's energy was
either down.
And look where her energy goes. It's actually up. She is like that. It's not level.
Dizzy likes her.
It's up. she's definitely a controversial person, but I think a lot
Mhm.
of it is just how she talks in commands as much as suggestions. There's no nice girl about her of, Your Honor, please could be approached or
Right.
objection.
And I did notice that she does seem like she wants to run that courtroom. Absolutely, 100%. She wants to run it. It's yeah, her stomping grounds here. And I think for me, it was the three. I believe it was three objections. Oh, hey Sal. It was the three objections in opening statements for, and I was just like, wow, that's might not sit well for people in the jury, but I obviously don't know. And I think that today is a big day for her in terms of a lot of us are wondering if Hannah Reid is going to testify. Oh, we've got some new people joining. Hi, Sinead. Hi, Charlotte.
Aye.
Yeah, so I think this is she's probably a little stressed. I was trying to understand, and I had a few lawyers. If somebody was on this thread last night, I believe it was Anjanette Levy's thread, but one of the attorneys was saying on this thread that if the defense, or I'm sorry, if the state doesn't call her, it looks bad on them. However, the defense is going to roast her, and then the other part is she'll most likely plead the fifth, which looks horrible for the state as well. So it's like we don't know what's going to happen here. This is a
Yeah.
big day.
I'll be watching that carefully. Did you see any of the
Yeah.
afternoon session when they were talking about this Good Samaritan that brought live ammo to the police station?
Uh, Very briefly. Yeah, you could definitely touch upon that.
Yeah, I mean that was very interesting. I haven't seen it in
Yeah.
full, but I have seen I've seen like the highlights as if it's a sports game that we watch a replay of at the
Yeah,
end of
yeah,
the
yeah,
at the end of the day. But
totally.
I think it was an investigator that was testifying about this. When she was under cross, she was very evasive of the questions. She was
The one with the
asked. There was
glasses, right? Is that
yes,
her? Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
She was asked who she told about this live ammunition arriving. So who she told,
Yeah.
and she said, "My lieutenant was there, and someone else was aware of it too." And now she didn't say who she told about that. It was very interesting. There was something strange going on with this ammunition that turned up. She was very. She was asked, "Was this turned over to the defense?" And her answer, and I could see how this could be
Yeah.
her answer, would be
Yeah.
turning evidence over to defense is not my job, so I don't know, or I didn't turn it over, but then it's not my job. But she got really squirmy and started qualifying her answer with,
Yep.
I was just asked to raise a dock on it. And
Oh, he
it was
got
like,
her. I thought he got her
whoa.
for sure. Yeah, no, he definitely tripped her up. And I just want to go back up here. Sorry, where? Oh, Dizzy. Okay, I'm sorry. He kind of is. What are we used to looking at? Like Lally and sorry. I mean, I'm not bashing. Like he's pretty cute. You don't think he's cute? Whatever. To each his own. I think he's very pleasant to look at. I don't mind him. Um, Hi, Debbie. Nice to have you here. Charlotte said the idea that, okay, so wait, Charlotte, this is what Jack and I were discussing offline. The idea that she's a commanding woman, that's why people don't like her. Um, it's interesting because I literally said this. I said, I feel a little guilty when I was bothered by some of the objections and some of the, commands. And I thought to myself, like, would I feel this way if she was a man? And I know that I cannot stand the way people, pigeonhole me certain ways as a female and whatever. So I did feel a little bad. And I don't disagree with you there. I don't. So
Yeah, I think just the thing is, as well, so I think you're both exactly right.
yeah.
But just people who put themselves in the public eye, they haven't really put themselves in the public eye. They're in the public eye because of what their job is.
Hmm.
But no matter who you are, you will get flack thrown at you. You just think of
You're
how
right.
much flack Lally got thrown at during the trial,
Yeah.
or Alec Murdoch's attorneys got during that trial as well. They got lots thrown at them. I
Yeah.
think, though, definitely, Charlotte, great point. It's much harder for women. And as well, there are the racist things that go around black people, black women,
Yeah.
especially, that are just very unconsciously easy for people to do.
Right. Yeah. And I totally agree. Um, Yeah, it's a thing. It's definitely a thing. And like you said, when you're in the public eye, you get crap regardless. I mean, I know that we all were very, and listen, I learned this in the middle of the Karen Reed trial that the reason Lally constantly said what if anything, but now that we're past that, and I watch a lot of trials at night. No prosecutor that I've ever seen says what if anything more than Adam Lally. So I'm like, dude, you didn't have to say that every time. And now I find myself saying it to my children. I'm like, what if anything would make me not want to, like, yeah, I'm like,
and
one
that,
of
do you
those
know what?
things.
Again, his we spoke about him before, but his delivery was the exact same every
Yeah.
single time. It was that,
Yep.
what if anything did you, and it didn't vary, so it became really, really noticeable. Whereas
Yeah.
some people just won't notice it.
No, it's true, Sinead. We're all saying what if anything. Something that I feel bad about this, but I constantly say well, like on Brian Hagen's text. I cannot stop saying that. It's horrible. I say well to everything, and it's very general, but still people are like, what? And then Melinda, just really quickly, we'll wrap up and we'll move to Reed since we're going there. I don't know if that's a reason for all the criticism about her. I have zero issue with a woman being commanding and taking charge. I just find her annoying. Totally get that too. Absolutely. The woman thing is just something I thought about because she's just a woman that's very, commanding.
Yeah, I think Melinda's
Yeah.
point there, or what we got from Melinda
Yeah.
there, is that Melinda is able to voice what it is she doesn't like there. And I think it's when we have these, oh, I don't like this person, but I can't voice it. I don't know what it is that's getting me going the wrong way. That's when we should be careful and check in.
Yeah.
Is this person annoying, or are they just doing something unexpected and I'm not used to it? I'm uncomfortable with what I see. And that's why I'm finding it, makes me a bit funny.
Yeah, and you've heard that phrase, "Oh, they've got a face I wanna punch." Have you heard that phrase? Tell me you guys have that phrase
Yeah,
in the UK.
yes.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't really know what do you make of that phrase? I feel like I've said it before, at some point in my life, but is that just like a mean person phrase? Like,
Do you know what? That would be a phrase that would be well in use when I was younger and may still be well in use now.
he didn't make it up,
But
I swear.
no. I would, I personally now, it's not a phrase I would use, and especially I would not use it about a woman. And I think, when 20 years ago, that which she's got a face you'd
Yeah.
never tire of slapping might be something that you would hear,
Oh.
and what it means is
Gosh.
people don't really mean they want to go there and hit someone
Yeah.
about. But actually, when we've got so much of a focus on male violence against women, I
Yes.
don't think people using that language helps a lot. And I'm not going to add my part to that problem by
I
using
wasn't
language
even
like that
talking
personally.
about her. I was just talking about the phrase in general. I think
Yeah,
it just means like, oh, that person annoys me, but I can't put my finger on it because they've got a face I want to punch or whatever. Yeah, I swear
yeah.
I was not talking about a woman. I was just, yeah, in general. Well, maybe we should pivot here since I've made that very
To a
awkward.
less controversial subject.
Oh yeah, way less controversial. Let's talk about Karen Reed this week, and we've had quite the week, starting off with Proctor being suspended without pay, and then Kevin Albert getting suspended with pay, and now we have these new filings from the jury and a fourth juror. I don't even know if it's not allegedly came forward. It's they came forward through the defense. So we just haven't heard from these jurors directly. We've heard through the defense. Sinead says, "Don't mess with Lauren." I've never punched anyone in my life. I promise you, not one person. But I wouldn't even know. I mean, I'd know how. But yeah. So anyway, let's get into that. Let's get into the jury. Let's get into this.
Right. So someone's lying. Someone in the Karen Reed jury or legal process is telling a lie. I don't know who it is. Maybe we could work out who it is as we talk here, but someone is telling lies around here. So you are aware, you've set it up, that the communication through the defense that the four jurors have said is that the jury were all agreed that the with intent was not guilty, unanimously not guilty,
Murder
and leaving
too.
the
Yes.
scene. Yeah,
Yes.
leaving the scene was as well. That was not guilty too. Yeah. and they were split in some way over the manslaughter without intent or whatever it was there. Yeah.
Manslaughter. They were hung on.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So here are the last two notes from the jury to Judge Bev. Does this sound like the actions description of a team that have decided on 2 of the 3 charges, or does it not? So the first one they sent on the last day of deliberation, Judge Canoni, despite our commitment to the duty entrusted to us, we find ourselves deeply divided by fundamental differences in our opinions and state of mind. The divergence of our views are not rooted in a lack of understanding or effort, but deeply held convictions that each of us carry, ultimately leading to a point where consensus is unattainable. Consensus is unattainable. Now, if they had decided she was not guilty on number 1 and number 3, the consensus was not unattainable. It was unattainable maybe on one of the charges, but consensus was not unattainable, so that doesn't flow. We recognize the weight of this admission and the implications it holds. The second one, despite our rigorous efforts, we continue to find ourselves at an impasse. Our perspectives on the evidence are starkly divided. Some members of the jury firmly believe the evidence passes the burden of proof establishing the element of the charges, plural, beyond reasonable doubt. Conversely, others find the evidence fails to meet the standard and does not sufficiently establish the necessary elements of the charges, plural. This deep division is not due to a lack of effort or diligence, but rather a sincere adherence to our individual principles and moral convictions. To continue to deliberate would be futile and only serve to force us to compromise these deeply held beliefs. So that is at odds in the words, factually, that of these 4 jurors that have come forward. I don't know who lied. I've got some suspicions as to who's not telling the truth here. It could be the foreperson that wrote that note that is over-egging the pudding and going, right, I am going to say we are vastly split so that we can get out of here. And I always said I thought these were about them getting out of here without delivering any sort of verdict. But that is what is there.
Can I add to this just quickly? Could it also be, well, wait, it says, all right, she said not to say the split. There's a lot of other things, I think, you're obviously speaking about just these statements, right? So guys, just keep that in mind. Jack is not an attorney. He's literally deciphering. Yeah, he's deciphering statements. That's what he does. I want to point out, obviously, the jury slip that could have really confused them that they had for, you guys can remind me, how long did they have this jury slip that just said not guilty with none of the lesser charges? How long did they have that for? Does anybody remember? That was in their possession for what? I don't know if it was hours, if it was days before it was changed. I think it was days or something. I want to believe that it was. So that could have been very confusing for them, Jack. They could have just had this in their head that they had to be, unanimous. I don't know. They could have misunderstood the instructions. I think there's a lot of things going on here that we kind of learned throughout the end of this, but that's where I kind of give them a pass a little bit on that language. And yes, I feel like this could have been completely avoided had the judge just asked if this was on all counts or 1 or 2 of them. And yes, Disney, I think you were on the live I did with Martin Radner, brother counsel. We played a clip from the Karen Swift murder trial, David Swift, where there was, I believe, 3 charges. And the jury said, they came out and said, hey, we're hung. And the judge asked the foreperson, well, are you hung on this? And they said, no, we're unanimous on this. And she said, are you hung on this? And they said, yes, we're hung on this. Yeah. So you're right. I feel like she should have, but I'm not really sure. Massachusetts law. I think we can safely assume there is no lawyer on the jury.
Good point, Taryn.
Yeah, there we go. Right. That's really interesting. I don't know if they misunderstood this. I cannot imagine that a lawyer would. Sorry, that sounds, a lawyer would lie. No, sorry. I meant like they would, that a lawyer would put their law license on the line and make something like this up. I know, right? Jack and Martin would be so amazing to watch together. They'd be great. I'll definitely arrange that. But yeah, please keep going.
So are they putting their law license on the line. This is, I've got Alan Jackson's 2 testimonies. I haven't looked at Unetti's because, as far as I'm concerned, that's hearsay of hearsay, because those are, and I love the way
Yeah.
Alan Jackson gets the big boys that actually talk, and Unetti gets to go and
Yeah.
talk to their friends of friends. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the first one. This concerns Juror A, and he has only put 2 words in quotes in his affidavit, as in quotation marks, which I think is him suggesting the wording, the actual
Yeah.
wording that was used by
Okay.
this person that he spoke to. And one of those words is split. So Juror A told me she was seeing inaccurate reports about the split. There in inverted in quotation marks. And the other one is Juror A told me the result, etc., 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 was in quotation marks off the table, end quotation marks. Right. So off the
Okay.
table is the only phrase he has put that I can see in quotation marks in his affidavit. Never once is not guilty in quotation marks. Never once has he written down, the juror told me we found the defendant not guilty, or all 12 agreed the defendant was
Right.
not guilty there. So I'm
Okay.
just wondering how
Okay.
much of, because to be fair, he's not saying they said directly this was not guilty. He's saying it was off the table, which sounds like a much lower burden than a legal term.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's keep in mind, this is their job, right? To find loopholes. And maybe this is their way of calling out Judge Bev for not doing what she was supposed to. And this will get them what, because she could be, I don't know, but she could be facing, some ethical mishaps down the line if they don't address this properly, and especially because this case is so volatile and people are getting fired and suspended. And yeah, so maybe this is a really good strategy they have here to to fight for their client.
Next affidavit, so this is Juror D, and this is really interesting. Lots more words appear in quotation marks here. However, they're really interesting words. They're all about feelings, not facts. So Juror D reached out because they were, in quotations, uncomfortable. Feeling word. Juror D said it was very troubling. Actually, that's not in quotation marks, but again, that's a feeling word. It's there.
Yeah.
Juror D explained she was confused and upset. Then talking about the bus they were all on, the jurors appeared uncomfortable. So this is not the jurors were uncomfortable, spoke of their discomfort or anything. They appeared uncomfortable to Juror D, and wondering, is anyone allowed to know that we acquitted Karen on counts 1 and 3? Not wondered, like not said out loud these things. So I believe this person is going on their own personal feelings and then telling Jackson this story. In quotation marks was they were very uncomfortable with the result. In quotation marks, it did not feel right. And that's just not right. The one thing that I did take out of Juror D that gave me a little bit more satisfaction was that they said every one of us will agree and acknowledge we found Karen Reid not guilty of counts 1 and 3 because that's what happened. And that's very simple and straightforward. That's what happened. There's no qualification or and it's actually it's action words there rather than feeling words. What happened? So, but I found I wondered how much Juror D is going on intuition and feelings when they're talking about what was discussed, and a lot less, or that everyone would agree. But that's what happened. I thought was very interesting from Juror D, because it's very simple, it's very straightforward. So that had a little bit more credibility to me than we were on the bus and everyone appeared uncomfortable. Maybe they were uncomfortable.
No, you're absolutely right. And this just goes back to MJ. Yeah, this is how I feel. I feel the same way that MJ does. The jury was confused. Bev gave them confusing instructions and changed the verdict forms. I agree with that. And I think that this is being, I don't want to say capitalized on, but this is, the defense is doing a great job of calling this out. And I think somebody else said, well, why not just ask for instructions? Yeah, this is so funny. Disney were thinking the same. They should have asked the judge, but it seemed to me they didn't feel comfortable asking her a question after the first time they asked for a report. Okay, that's interesting. If the jury instructions were on paper, I don't know actually. If she read them correctly. That's a good question.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
also
Yeah.
when I say someone is telling a lie, because what the jurors are telling
Yeah.
the defense doesn't match the foreperson's notes at all. You know, the foreperson's notes are we are divided on
Oh,
everything, is what they
thank
say.
you.
Uh, but the defense do make a point in their motion that
Yeah.
they were not giving sight of the jurors' notes as well. So you know,
Right.
I'm not saying the judge lied, but you know, we just don't know. Somewhere in this chain, someone is telling some lies.
So, and Dizzy confirmed that they were on paper. Oh, and KKB said, don't forget, Bev hand chose the foreperson. That's all. Okay. I, yeah, I completely forgot that point. That's another point. And I don't know, Jack, when you read the first part of Alan Jackson's affidavit, do you have the affidavit?
Yeah.
Because I felt like he did a lot of explaining in the first paragraph, I guess, about how he came to meet this juror, how they came to him. I was like, okay, that's a nice little explanation. Did we need that? I don't know, Jack. Do we need that explanation?
Oh, I haven't looked at that, but let me just read it. On
Yeah. So just
Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024, I was contacted by Juror A, true name and identity withheld to maintain anonymity. Based on my conversation with Juror A and the juror's description of who he/she is, where he/she was seated, and certain identifying information, name, occupation disclosed during the voir dire process, I was able to positively identify which juror he/she was. That feels legal to me. That feels
okay.
like
Yeah. It was a
someone didn't just
lot.
phone. Yeah, someone didn't just phone me up saying, "Hello, I'm Juror A, and Karen Reid was found entirely guilty, and this is all corruption." You know, this is.
Mhm.
I was able
Yes.
to ascertain this is the real person. Having said that, we know that this has all been done by phone, because he doesn't say that he recognized who it was by sight. You know, this was
Right.
obviously a juror there. So yeah, I think that's what we can learn from that words.
Okay.
But I think this is maybe him just saying this is not just some random crank call.
Okay. Yeah. I was just curious because I was like, that's a lot of description on how this whole thing came about, and I just didn't know if that was necessary or if that was just over explaining. But no, it's all legal. Okay, that makes sense. And then Dizzy said that's not unusual though, Jack. Attorneys often don't get to actually see the jury notes. Yeah, I
That
think good point.
Yeah, that's not me. I'm not really throwing any accusations around that. What I am saying,
Yeah,
Dizzy, is that someone here isn't telling the truth. You know, the four-person note and
yeah,
those jury affidavits or the jury chalks to the Alan Jackson and Unetti, they're at complete odds with each other,
yeah,
and we don't know where this all fell down. What I would say was, I would think that if the it's interesting, rather, that no one, as far as I know, of these jurors that have come forward has said the four-person's notes did not match the state of the room.
yeah,
And I did get the sense that the four-person's notes were written with the support of everyone in the jury, and I thought their mission was just to get out of there. So they might not want to mention that. You know, like we all endorsed the four-person just sending notes saying we're stuck.
yeah,
We're not going anywhere. Please let us home.
yeah,
And now things are starting to come out. Potentially, even jurors regretting that they thought if they said we want to go home, we're not going to reach a definitive verdict, but they thought maybe they'd be pulled or something. I don't know.
yeah. And I do feel like Judge was pretty. I don't know. She made it clear, like it's a holiday. It's a, you know what I mean? We don't want to be here. It was like, that was just a known vibe to me throughout all of this. But Charlotte, one of your students
Charles,
here is going to call you out. Hold up. Didn't Jack say when someone says, I'm not saying that, and proceeds to say the thing they profess to not be saying, doesn't that mean they are actually saying
so what I did, I mean, I think you got the principle right there, Charlotte,
that?
which is that if someone states something in the negative, that's where their focus is. And my focus very much was on, number one, not accusing someone of lying when don't know. I'm accusing someone of lying, but not specific people of lying here. I don't know where the truth sits with this. All I'm saying is that these things don't match up. So yeah, when you state something in the negative, then that's where your focus is. So my focus was on the fact I am not saying that. Let's wrap it back to Alec Baldwin. He starts off his answer by not to give some commentary here, but he then goes on to give some commentary because his focus is on giving some commentary. So yeah, kind of right, Charlotte. My focus was there. I am not saying that who is not telling the truth in this juror situation, but someone is.
Yeah, and I just want to add, like, it could be Bev. I'm sorry, and this is not. I'm obviously this is nothing conclusive. I am completely speculating based on what we've been discussing on this live stream. But yes, it could be anybody. And when I say it could be the judge, I mean it could be the judge in the sense that yes, she knew the foreperson she picked. She knew that maybe she should have said XYZ, but she didn't, and she could get away with it because, you know, in Massachusetts, right? I don't know, but it could be anyone, and we shouldn't exclude the judge from this. I don't think so, based on what I've seen, you know, the last 2 months during that trial. And I know that everybody has different opinions on that, and I respect all opinions. So hopefully you can respect mine as well, even if you don't agree with it. I hope I'm like nice about it and not obnoxious, but that's just how I feel. Could be anybody not telling the truth.
Yeah, it could be.
Right. Okay. That's good. That's good that you agree with that too. It doesn't have to be pigeonholed to the jury or the defense attorneys. Could be.
Yeah. We don't know. And one of the most powerful things we can do in this world is say, I don't know. It's really liberating not to have to know what is exactly happening.
It's funny. In media training, we're not supposed to say that ever. When I was doing news and commentary, they're like, you never say that you don't know, because so it's just interesting. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just right. Like I'm programmed to not say I don't know, when I wish I would say it more, because I just make something up, which sounds even dumber, but like, right?
It's such in statement analysis terms, if someone says, I don't know, it's a really good indicator they're telling the truth, because when people are being just truthful and honest about what has happened or what they think or so on, they see no loss in saying, oh, I don't know. Someone who's telling a deceptive story, when they don't know, they may go, oh, right. Now, if I say I don't know at this point, is that going to sound like I'm weak or that I haven't made this part up right, or my story's falling apart at the seams? I better make something up, or kind of go, not a clue. But just don't know. Truthful people tend to be much more predisposed to saying I don't know than people who are deceptive.
Well, then I think you just nailed it, and I think I just gave away all the secrets of the media. Fox, CNN, MSNBC. Literally, you are never supposed to say I don't know. And even on, you know, with radio, when I did radio, never ever say that. You just have to go with, you know. And so that's true. I've been in a position where I have no freaking clue what I'm supposed to say, and I just have to go with it and make something up to the best of my ability. So,
or let me guess something you might have done, which would be a very deceptive tactic if this wasn't about news reporting, but was about, you know, someone will ask you a question and you don't know the answers, but you pivot to something you do know the answer to. So if someone said, you know, do you know what Jack had for lunch today? You could say, I don't, but I do know he likes to eat healthily. So I'm imagining that it would be something, and therefore you're pivoting away around. And that's what we see in deception when someone has a pre-prepared story that they want to tell. They make their answer and the question don't quite match, but they'll make what they have to say go with the question and sort of move over that way rather than going, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it'll be similar, but I've been accused. It's funny. I've been on, you know, shows where someone's like, you know, this girl, I think she's done pageants before because she seems to not stumble over what she's supposed to say, but she makes absolutely no fucking sense. So, and I'm like, nailed it. You nailed it right there. No, I'm just kidding. But really, I'm really good at that. Just talking and being like, what was the question? I don't even remember. So, but Sal said, saying, and Jack, is you guys are on the same page here from a human being perspective. Saying I don't know is Absolutely. You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to be honest and say that you don't know if that's the case here. Oh, hi Tim. So does anyone have any questions, I guess, for Jack when it comes to anything that, we discussed today, any statements in general, anything on deception, just because I'm thinking about things that I've sent you, Jack, in the last week. What did I send you about? I just wanted to pull it up because I thought it was interesting.
You sent me Heath Ledger's diary.
Oh,
there's
yes.
an insight into Lauren's mind, just DMing me Heath Ledger's diary extracts.
Yes, I was like, please, you have to look at this. This is, I mean, it was just like sentences, but dude, it was chilling, I thought.
Oh, there was a lot of darkness there, but did you notice how often he mentioned money?
I didn't, because I'm not you. I'm not as good as you, but yeah.
That was my big thing there. I got the darkness, I got the some sort of tension going on, especially between him and family and so on.
Yes.
But
yes.
the amount of time he mentioned money, and I don't know enough about him. Was he just a pure artist and hated the fact that he got money, so much obscene amounts of money for his art? Or was he a very pure person and hated the fact that he was, working no harder than you and I, but getting paid what he would seem to be excessive money? Or did he realize the fact that he had easy access to money gave him easy access to the bad things in his life? I don't know, but he mentioned money, and money in a negative sense a lot. It wasn't like, yeah, money's great, or I can buy whatever I want. It was money, and it was negative connotations with money. That was really interesting to me.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? You asking just about the way he was, I find that we don't know a lot about him because they haven't really made a lot of, I say they, I guess I mean Hollywood and some of these film companies. There hasn't been a lot of documentaries, I guess, about him. There are certain Hollywood celebrities or actors who have passed away where you see a lot of documentaries about him. Like, I feel like I've seen like 3 on Robin Williams. I've seen a number of them on Michael Jackson. I haven't really seen any on Heath Ledger, and I'm sure there's some out there, but I don't know much about him. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, so that was quite nice for me. I don't know a lot about his backstory at all, which I always like doing when I'm analyzing statements, because it means I don't get brought into, preconceived ideas or go with biases. So I've maybe someone who knows him really well or knows his life really well could say, yeah, money really screwed this guy over, or he was obsessed by, felt guilty about making so much money at the same time he loved having it. It conflicted him. I don't know, but money all the time, money.
Yeah, absolutely. And something else that I brought up to Jack, if anybody follows me on Twitter or my other show, Primetime Crime, we've been covering a case of a missing mom out of California, Nikki Chang Saley McCain, and her husband. He basically, I'll say allegedly, he was arrested. The charges were just dropped, but he beat the crap out of her allegedly in December. Over 3 hours, he tied her up. It was just horrible. She finally pressed charges, and they were going to trial with the jury this month until she disappeared in May. And the DA had no choice but to drop these charges because she was the only witness, and they decided that they didn't want to risk, a not guilty verdict, and then he couldn't be tried again. So anyway, he's part of this tribe. His family is very connected to this tribe in California, and the sovereign land, it's really only about 30 acres that they own, but it's been a little bit weird, the jurisdiction, if local police are allowed to search on it, if they're not, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, the Rancheria put out a statement, which I noticed right away. I said, something's odd about this. They were getting flack from the community. They did put up a billboard, for Nikki, and they offered 10 grand, which the Rancheria they have a big casino. 10 grand. I think that's amazing. They did that, but it's also nothing compared to
have a chip.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Exactly. So Jack, you did such a great job of analyzing this press release they put out, which essentially was like, guys, we want to clear the air here. We put up a billboard and we put up reward money. So we've done our duty. I didn't like that at all.
No, it was very focused on protecting the tribe
Yeah.
and the tribe's image, much less so than finding this missing woman. And you know, in one hand, image management might be fine if they are having a real hard time with it, but the
Yeah.
fact that it was out of balance for me. And Charlotte and I have been talking about statements in the negative. They spent a
Yeah.
lot of time telling us what they couldn't do. And that was interesting. They spent some
Yeah.
time telling us what they'd done, but they did spend a lot of time telling us what they couldn't do, rather than just wrapping there are certain things that we can't do, or that
Yeah.
are not available to us. They spent quite a lot of time detailing what they couldn't do, and their focus was on what they couldn't do. Why? Don't know. We'll find out.
Well, yeah, we've been doing a lot of digging for anyone following that case. I've found a lot of stuff that I'm trying to verify with the guy that was on the show the other day from the USPA, this former Marine, Brian Fitzgibbons. He's amazing. We've got this awesome timeline, and we've got a lot of information about this tribe and everything. And yeah, guys, it's been an hour. We have to go. Everybody has to go to work. I had to get my kids to camp and everything. But God, Jack, I could be on with you like all day. It's so funny, literally all day. I mean, you're the best, really.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to do. It's like you're starting your day. This is my lunch hour, so this is all good.
Yes, and most people I think are starting their day. I think Sheila is in Ireland, or no, Scotland. I forget, but yeah, I really appreciate everyone joining. I put Jack's YouTube down in the banner, and Never a Truer Word videos. His videos are so good. Obviously Jack's on Twitter. He has different variations of Never a Truer Word.
Yeah, I
So
could never get
yeah.
the same one in all platforms. Damn.
Yeah, no. And Meg, no, it doesn't. It's Primetime Crime Show. It's one, I know it's so weird. I don't know why they do that. But it's Primetime Crime Show, and you'll see my name. And I've tagged it other places. But KKB, I love having my coffee with you too. I'm disgusting. I get like chocolate mocha in my coffee. I try to be healthy otherwise, but every morning I have like a coffee filled with like 17 million grams of sugar. So, and then sorry, really quick, Jack, can you read this? How does your work compare to
Yeah.
someone like, yeah, really quick.
I don't know enough about truth. I don't know. I do not know. I do not know enough about Truth Revealed and that foundation to answer that question.
Thanks, Sue. Okay. Sorry, Tim.
I'll look into it,
Maybe
because
next time.
anything, yeah, anything like that,
Yeah.
I'm very interested in.
Well, all right, guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to hit up Jack. So we'll do this again next week. And I'm going to, or hopefully next week, if Jack's free, I shouldn't say that, but I'm going to try to get a set live stream going. So I got to coordinate with Jack alone too, because I want to make sure we don't ever overlap with Joe's, because I love Joe's at 8 a.m. too. So anyway, thank you everyone for joining, and thank you so much to Jack. You're awesome.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Lauren, for asking me.
Ending. I'm just waiting for it to end. I think it ended.
It's still saying live up.